Have you ever felt like your mind is just stuck on a loop you can't escape? It's that frustrating circular thinking. Well, today, we're going to dive into what's known as compulsive rumination. We're going to break down why it happens and how our minds get so tangled up in the first place. So, let's start with this idea. Think about it. Have you ever been in your own head, endlessly debating something? You argue one side, and then you immediately turn around and argue the complete opposite. If you have, then you already get what it's like to be trapped in this mental courtroom.
And that's exactly what it feels like, right? This isn't some calm, thoughtful reflection. No, it's this frantic, totally exhausting cycle. You're just spinning your wheels, burning all this mental energy, but you never actually reach a destination. You never get a verdict. So why? Why does this even happen? Well, it turns out this whole mental loop isn't just random static. It's actually a very specific process, and it's driven by two really powerful and totally competing fears. The key thing to understand here is that compulsive rumination isn't just one single worry. It's a loop between two opposite ways of thinking. And both sides of your internal argument, believe it or not, are trying to protect you from the very same core fear, just from completely different angles. At its heart, rumination is really your brain's attempt at risk management. It's desperately trying to stop you from making a huge mistake. The problem is, it's terrified of making two completely opposite mistakes at the same time. And this right here, this is the central conflict. On one side, you have the fear of being careless. What if this threat is totally real and I just blow it off? But then, on the other side, you've got the fear of being paranoid. What if this is all just in my head and I'm wasting my entire life worrying about nothing? These two fears, they're the engine for the whole cycle. Okay, so what does this actually look like in practice? Let's go back to that courtroom idea. These two fears literally force your mind to play two very different and totally conflicting roles. Let's walk through it step by step. It all kicks off with that first fear, but what if it's true? That fear makes you become the prosecutor. Your mission is to find every single scrap of evidence, no matter how tiny, to prove that the threat is 100% real. But the moment you start to succeed, the moment you almost convince yourself, that other fear kicks in. Wait, what if it's not true? And just like that, you're forced to switch sides. Now, you're the defendant. Your job is to tear down your own case, find all the counter-arguments, and poke holes in your own logic. And you guessed it. As soon as you start doing a good job defending the case, proving the threat isn't real, that first fear starts to creep back in. But what if I'm wrong? What if it is true and I'm just ignoring it? And there we are. The loop starts all over again. And this gets us right to the heart of the problem. You are playing both sides of the aisle. You're the prosecutor trying to prove guilt, and you're the defendant trying to prove innocence. As psychologist Dr. Michael J. Greenberg puts it, the one role you never play is the impartial judge, the one person who could actually weigh the evidence and make a decision. So just understanding this whole structure, seeing the game board, that's the key to escaping it. Let's dig into why this loop is so pointless and what this all means for actually getting out of it. The reason it feels like you're going absolutely nowhere is because you are. The goal in this mental courtroom is not to find the truth. The goal is to win the argument for whichever side you're on at that moment. First, you try to prove it's true, then you try to prove it's false. This system is not designed to figure things out. It's designed for endless debate. This really calls for a huge shift in how you look at this. When you're stuck in the loop, you feel like you just need to argue harder, right? To find that one perfect piece of evidence that'll finally settle it. But you can't. The game is rigged to never end. The goal is not to win the case. So, the whole point of understanding this prosecutor versus defendant cycle is to finally see the game for what it is. Completely unwinnable. The only winning move is to just stop playing. It's about recognizing the moment you've stepped into the courtroom and making a conscious choice to just walk out. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. Instead of trying so hard to be a better prosecutor or a better defendant, what would it actually look like for you to just fire them both and simply leave the courtroom altogether?